Welcome, everybody. Letting some folks into the room. We're going to get started just in a second. Wonderful. Well, good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Krupa, and I lead network engagement and development for the Florida College Access Network. And so thrilled to be here today to welcome you to FAFSA Forward, where we'll share some regional success stories and take a peek at the 26-27 FAFSA. This promises to be a really inspiring but also practical session full of takeaways that you can bring back home, and also maybe some urgent questions that we can answer live during our time together today. Over the next 90 minutes, we're in for quite a ride. We're going to dive into lots of data, share and hear from real stories and real people, preview what's coming, and give you some tips and tools you can take back. So let's get started. We have some great presenters coming on board, including two amazing students. So as we dive in, just a couple quick reminders about how you can engage with us today. We love your questions, so please drop your questions in the dashboard anytime, and we will do our best to answer them live. If we can't get to all of them, we will try our best to answer them in the blog, in the posts that will come as a result of today. You can also join the discussion on social media using these handles. And as always, our promise is to make the recording and all the materials shared available to you within a week. For those of you new to FCAN, our vision is a Florida working together where education is the pathway to economic mobility for all. And recent research shows that over 3/4 of Florida students benefit from some sort of financial aid. And those are the students that we stand here ready to serve, making today's discussion all the more timely and important. At FCAN, we work through many channels to do our work. I wanted to highlight every single one on the screen because FAFSA intersects with everything, but here's just a little bit about how we think the discussion is relevant to our full scope of work. Our conditions for success are also on the screen, and again, could be highlighted, but chose three that seem to resonate most with our discussion and also what we're celebrating today as we achieve many FAFSA milestones across our regions. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that you need to put this on your calendar and invite all of your colleagues to our summit, May 6th through 8th, 2026 at the Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay. We're coming back to Tampa Bay. We're so excited to celebrate all things Talent Strong Florida with you. We also wanted to let you know that we're opening our call for proposals in early October, so look out for that announcement. We have every year very competitive breakout session concepts, and we hope that you will be in that number. We can't wait to learn from you and encourage your submissions. Many of you are doing amazing evidence-based work, and we want to put you on that stage and make sure everyone knows about it. So please consider submitting a proposal and sharing with your friends. So now let's hear from our experts about how we can strengthen FAFSA completion supports across Florida. And here's what you're in for on this webinar. Shortly, I'm going to pass the mic to my colleagues, Keena Winton and Dane Shelton, who will walk us through what we need to know about Florida students completing the FAFSA. They'll really set the stage for us today with their data dive. And then we'll welcome representatives from 3 local college access networks across Florida that have really built their own successful FAFSA ecosystems. They're going to share what's working, what they're seeing in their communities, and most importantly, we'll hear directly from students whose lives have been changed as a result of their work. Finally, kind of helping us connect the dots between these community strategies and what's coming next. We're going to hear from our FAFSA expert with a preview of the 26-27 FAFSA and also some insights that I know will help us think strategically about the year ahead. So without further ado, let's start with our data foundation. Keena and Dane, take it away.
Thanks, Kina. Thank you, Kim. Welcome, everyone, and thank you guys for attending. As Kim mentioned, you'll be hearing from FAFSA experts on strategies for improving completion rates, student success stories, and what to expect in the upcoming cycle shortly. But my colleague Kina Winton and I wanted to share some very high-level FAFSA statistics at the district and school level to prime the conversation and recognize what great work was done in Florida this year. I'll begin by briefly introducing FCAN's FAFSA dashboard, which is updated weekly from the release of FAFSA's completion data through the end of August for the current cycle. Because of the nature of this call, I'm sure many of you all are familiar with this resource, but if you aren't, this great tool is found in the research and policy section of FCAN's website and provides multiple levels of analysis for completion rates at the state, district, and school level. So over here, starting on the landing page, you'll be able to search for your school or district based on a variety of filters, as well as access links to the data itself and resources detailing FAFSA completion strategies using the colored buttons beside the filters. At the bottom of the page is a link to our addendum where you can find more detailed information about our methodology. For the main attraction on this page, we have a bar chart displaying current completion rates in blue with target completion rates as the red reference line for each school or district. The target is associated with the March deadline for our Florida FAFSA challenge, which I'll introduce shortly. We knocked it out of the park this year with over half of our seniors completing a FAFSA as of August 29th. That's 51.7%, or about 113,000 students, thanks to the dedication of many of you on this call. This represents a 7.8 percentage point increase from the completion rate at the same date of the previous cycle. And we can view some details about the year-over-year comparison on the next view. So here we've got our school detail page. We find more information surrounding a school or district's completion efforts. We'll also see our full year-over-year comparison with submissions, completions, and obviously the percentage point increase. Pell dollar value is also here. This is a statistic that sparks conversation and helps quantify the aid that's available. Obviously, this is an estimated formula, and the formula is Pell dollars earned is FAFSA completion times FAFSA eligible low-income seniors times the average Pell Award for Florida. Low income values are an estimate from the Florida Department of Education Free and Reduced Lunch Report, and the average Pell Award is from the most recent Florida data from the National Center for Education Statistics. Our third and final view on the dashboard provides a heat map of the state, showing the completion shading for the current cycle and the previous cycle on the same scale for comparison. You can hover over a district with your mouse to view the tooltip for actual completion rates and Pell values. So now that we've seen how FCAN monitors FAFSA completion statewide, I'm going to briefly touch on the FAFSA Challenge Initiative. FCAN's Florida FAFSA Challenge is a call to action for schools and districts across the state to increase FAFSA completion rates. It's wrapped in with other FCAN initiatives with the wider goal of informing and aiding students about post-secondary planning that fits their interests. The challenge begins upon the release of the FAFSA for that specific cycle and concludes at the end of March. While students can submit a FAFSA all the way through the end of their freshman year of post-secondary, early completion helps students start a plan for their post-secondary path. Due to some non-traditional releases in the previous years, we have not awarded our normal ranked awards for about 2 cycles now, but we intend to return to this friendly competition format soon. The challenge is intended to celebrate success and identify opportunities for improvements throughout the state. So in the spirit of recognizing the great work statewide, today we're going to formally or informally, recognize some high achievers this year. And I'll let Kina tell you about some of the metrics that we're going to cover.
Thank you, Dane. I'm delighted to share some FAFSA highlights from this past year. And today we'll focus on 3 key metrics. First, obviously FAFSA completion rates for districts and schools as of March 31st, 2025. Completing the FAFSA by this date demonstrates a strong college-going culture, and students who file early are more likely to meet application deadlines and stay on track, as Dane said, for post-secondary enrollment. Next, we'll highlight the districts and schools with the largest percentage point gains in FAFSA completion rates from 2024 to 2025. Percentage point gains are an important measure because they show real progress over time, regardless of a district's or a school's starting point. These gains reflect the success of local strategies and the reach of efforts to support students. Recognizing growth in this way celebrates effective practices that can be scaled and sustained across Florida. And finally, we'll share the districts and schools that earned the greatest estimated Pell dollars. This metric matters because it shows the direct impact FAFSA completion has on affordability and access. Higher completion rates translate into more Pell dollars, reducing the cost of attendance for low-income students, expanding opportunity for those who might not otherwise pursue post-secondary education, and strengthening the local talent pipeline. As we go through the top performers, you will notice some districts and schools highlighted in bold blue text. In addition to being in the top 5 for each metric, they also achieved a +5 percentage point increase in FAFSA completion for March of 2023. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with our regular sized districts, congrats to Gilchrist County with the 42.6% FAFSA completion rate. Moving on to medium-sized districts, congrats to Citrus County, who had a FAFSA completion rate of 35%. Our large districts, congratulations to Sarasota County, who had the highest FAFSA completion rate among all of Florida's large districts at 41.2%. In our extra large category, Miami-Dade had the highest completion rate by March of 2025 at 39.5%. Now, moving on to the net gains metric. Congrats to Gilchrist County, who had the largest net gain in FAFSA completion rates among our regular sized districts. In the medium-sized district group, Putnam County had the largest growth, jumping from 13.7% to 34.4% FAFSA completion rate, a gain of 20.7 percentage points from March of 2024 to March of 2025. Congratulations. In our large size district category, Sarasota County achieved the largest growth in percentage points in FAFSA completion rate, gaining 16.2 percentage points year over year. And in our extra large size district category, Miami-Dade grew FAFSA completion rates by 19.8 percentage points. Amazing work. Okay, moving on to estimates of Pell dollars earned by district. In our regular sized district group, Levy County earned the most Pell dollars at $310,172. And congrats to Charlotte District in the medium-sized district category, who garnered $1,399,000. Fantastic. Moving on to our large-sized districts, congratulations to Polk County, whose students earned an estimate of $5,396,473, and to Miami-Dade in the extra-sized districts category garnered $24,384,790 for students in their county. Now let's take a look at these same metrics for schools, starting with our regular sized schools, which by March 31st, 2025, had the highest FAFSA completion rates. Congrats to the Seed School of Miami in Miami-Dade County, home of the Bulldogs, who achieved a 95.7% FAFSA completion rate. Congrats to Terra Environmental Research Institute, located in Miami-Dade County, who at 71.7% achieved the highest FAFSA completion rate among schools in the medium-sized category. In our large-sized schools, congrats to Coral Reef Senior High School in Miami-Dade County, home of the Barracudas, who achieved the highest FAFSA completion rate among schools in this size category at 63.4%. And finally, our extra large size schools, congrats to John A. Ferguson Senior High in Miami-Dade County, home of the Falcons, who had a 48.9% FAFSA completion rate. And now let's take a look at net gains by school. Congrats to Young Women's Preparatory Academy in Miami-Dade County, who had the largest net gain in FAFSA completion rates among our regular sized schools with an impressive 56.3 percentage point gain in 1 year. Largest gains in medium-sized schools. Congrats to Miami Lakes Educational Center in Miami-Dade County, home of the Jaguars, which grew their FAFSA completion rate to 69.9%, gaining 39.9 percentage points in 1 year. Amazing. Largest gains in the large size school category. Congrats to Coral Reef Senior High in Miami-Dade County, home of the Barracudas, who grew FAFSA completion rate to 63.4%, gaining 33.2 percentage points in 1 year. And finally, rounding out this year-over-year percentage point gain category, looking at extra large schools, congrats to John A. Ferguson Senior High in Miami-Dade County, home of the Falcons, who grew FAFSA completion rate to 48.9%, gaining 25 percentage points in 1 year. Let's take a look at estimates of Pell dollars earned by high school. In our regular size school group, Gateway Charter School in Lee County earned the most Pell dollars of $374,865 in this group. Way to go, Griffins. In our medium-sized school group, Mater Academy Charter High School in Miami-Dade County, home of the Lions, earned the most Pell dollars of $676,458. In our large-sized school group, Coral Gables Senior High in Miami-Dade County, home of the Cavaliers, earned the most Pell dollars of $826,208. And finally, in our extra large sized group, again, John A. Ferguson Senior High in Miami-Dade County, home of the Falcons, earned the most Pell dollars of $1,028,457.
Thank you, Kina, and congratulations to everyone who was recognized. As mentioned, August 29th was our last update for this current FAFSA cycle, but we've already begun working on next year's cycle's tracking system. Keep your eyes peeled for our first look dashboard, which you'll be able to find in the same place, but will only display submissions and completions initially. Completion rates will follow at the top of 2026. If you have any questions on our methodology or just want to chat about your region's values, reach out to Kina and myself via email or schedule a call with us. We'll be monitoring the chat for the remainder of this webinar, so also feel free to pop a question in the Zoom chat. Thanks, everyone, and now I'll pass back to Kim.
Thank you so much, Kina and Dane. I know our heads are spinning with maybe some competition, and also congratulations for all those amazing schools. It was incredible to see so many of our counties represented by local college access networks in that number. And I think we all noticed who we are, the work that we're doing, all the improvements that we've seen, including and beyond Miami. But congratulations to Miami too. So without further ado, I would love to talk a little bit about our keynote speakers. We're going to jump into our regional showcase with Shayla Murray-Smith. I'm so excited to welcome Shayla, who is the director of Elevate Brevard, representing Brevard County, who is also building incredible momentum in Brevard with innovative partnerships that you'll hear about. Shayla just presented at the National College Attainment Network Conference in New Orleans, and she is someone you don't want to miss. Following in Shayla's giant shoes is Patrick Simon. We're going to hear from Patrick, who is the president of the Citrus County Coalition for College and Careers. And yes, both of you showed up in some of those lists. Patrick is also a lifelong learner and educator who brings valuable experience both as a FAFSA beta tester and also a longtime champion of higher education. And Patrick has brought 2 students with him, who we will also hear from during his presentation. So thank you for that, Patrick. Next, we'll hear from Colleen Lockwood, the Executive Director of Broward Bridge to Life, B2L, who led last month's historic beta testing event with Secretary McMahon and nearly 1,000 students and families that you will hear all about. Wrapping us up will be Daniel Barkowitz, who needs no FAFSA introductions in our world. He is one of Florida's foremost FAFSA experts and has been really instrumental in supporting statewide completion efforts, who also happens to be the Assistant Vice President of Financial Assistance at the University of Miami. So each of these leaders has developed proven strategies for FAFSA completion in their communities, and we're so excited to learn from their successes. And Shayla, I am going to let you take it from here.
Shayla, you're muted.
That'll help, huh? Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I want to start by thanking FCAN for inviting Elevate to this conversation and considering us a regional success story. I thought it really spoke to the work that we're trying to do. We do a zip code targeted work, and we do it in our most distressed zip code. And sometimes those people feel unseen or unworthy, or they're not familiar with people that have been to college, and someone that's only been in this work for about a year and a half. Sometimes I feel very unfamiliar with this work and sometimes unseen. So to be recognized by FCAN, just it feels good. So I'm happy that I can share that also with my community. As Kim said, my name is Shayla Smith. I am the director of Elevate Brevard, located on Florida's Space Coast here in Brevard County. And my success story will be a little bit different. As Kim mentioned, it'll talk more about partnership. And I wanted to talk about learning gains. I am new to education. I have a background in politics and lobbying. And I have found that learning gains is defined as improvement in knowledge, skills, work readiness, and personal development made by students during their time spent in higher education. And I feel over my last year and a half, I have made great learning gains, and I want to share those with you. So, a little bit of backstory. As you know, we're Elevate Brevard, and we started 5 years ago in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. A lot of our pre-work was done online, and there was one director before me. So, I'm the second director in the lifespan of Elevate. And one of the programs that I inherited was 321 FAFSA Liftoff. And the intent of this program was to provide many grants to local high schools in Brevard to support creative outreach strategies such as events and resources that would increase FAFSA completion rates. At the time, a large percentage of the 16 to 18 high schools that we have, depending on if you want to include charter schools or not, were their 5-year average was lower than 50%. So these mini grants went to the schools that had that average below 50%. So when I came in, I was like, great, we have this initiative that I can kind of get to work with. Now, here are a few caveats. I started in January, and I started in what I would like to call the FAFSA debacle year. So things started late. Um, it was an interesting climate to walk into. And then when I came to the table, I realized that every partner that sat at the table to develop the 321 FAFSA Liftoff program, they were no longer at the table. There was turnover there, either at the district level. The funder that was the CEO that sat at the table and said, we're going to pump this amount of dollars into this program. They had retired. There was a new CEO. So essentially, the only person at the table to see this program move forward was myself, and I was new to the game. So I learned really quickly as a director. I was like, okay, what is my role? How do I oversee something of this magnitude? And what I recognized were there were three roles that I would really have, and it was managing relationships, defining the purpose and the goals, and developing a sophisticated infrastructure. So again, like I said, my first lesson was turnover and changes and key stakeholders. How do I mitigate that? Because there's always going to be turnover. There's always going to be someone moving on. There's always going to be someone retiring. But that shouldn't bring my relationship or my network back down to a zero. So I would recognize that I would have to establish relationships at that CEO executive level and at that middle manager director level and at that boots on the ground level. So going back to the first year of the 321 FAFSA liftoff, the funder poured in $20,000. There was a $20,000 investment into this program, and each of the schools received $2,500, and they were able to use those funds. I went back to that funder and I explained to them, I was like, hey, the increase from 2022 to 2023 FAFSA completions and your investment resulting in graduates tapping into an additional $1.4 million in Pell Grants. Do you want to come back to the table? And they were like, no. And here was why, and I could understand. They were the ones that wrote all the checks, and they were the ones that basically had the infrastructure for the program. And because they had a new CEO, they really just didn't have the capacity to do that again. So that talks about that point number, that lesson 3 that I learned was building that infrastructure. So I took it back to my piggyback organization and said, hey, here's the issue that we're having right now. I don't have a funder. I don't know how to get into the schools. What do I do? In that relationship, you have to have funders that will give you a quick yes. You need those crisis funders. I went to some funders that had relationships with Family Promise, our piggyback organization, and said, I need $5,000. It's January. We need to have this money to the schools by March. School ends in May. Can I have $5,000? They said yes based on the relationships that we had, based on them trusting the integrity of Family Promise, our piggyback organization, not even Elevate Brevard. And so you have to have those multi-layered relationships. I was clear about the purpose and the goals of the program so that I could quickly articulate them to them, explain the ROI and why this money was necessary. And then I could say, instead of you having to be responsible for sending out those mini grants and dealing with the application process, Elevate can take on that role. So you're trusting that the money is coming to a trusted place, and we will report back to you all the things that are necessary that you can then house. So those relationships, being able to quickly and articulate your purpose, your goal, your ROI, and being able to build that sophisticated infrastructure. So currently, we manage the application process, we send the checks, we manage the W-9s. All of those things are managed in-house, and it's not a big lift for myself. So I don't have to put that on the funder, and we can take on that responsibility. So essentially, they write their check to us. We manage the mini grant process, and then we report back to them at the end of the year. Like I mentioned before, it's starting with the boots on the ground. So you're like, Shayla, you're talking about mini grants. How does that work? As I was coming in, the district created this position at each of the high schools that was new, and their college and career specialists. I didn't have any relationships at the districts. I started going to the college and career specialist meetings. I figured out they met once a month. I started building those relationships, talking to them, and then was able to get the money in and say, hey guys, I have this money. It's not $2,500, but we're able to bring this program to life. Are you all willing to work with me? Are you willing to be able to flip this money and take it into your schools and leverage these resources in about 60 days? And because I had been showing up and building relationships with them and having conversations, they were able to do that and then bring the data back to me so that next year I had more data to present to the funders and to say, this is why this program is successful. Use your chips. Again, going back to those funders and saying, I need you to trust me. There are some funders that you don't have that relationship with, and it's the traditional grant process, the traditional proposal process, and that is okay. But you also have to have those ones in your back pocket that you can pick up the phone and say, hey, this is the crisis that our community is facing. How can you help me mitigate this? And I can give you a ROI, even if it's just a great story to tell, to say, hey, your $5,000 investment resulted in X amount of dollars. So, measuring success, I've been doing this program now based on this new system that we're building, managing the infrastructure. And as of June 2025, Brevard County seniors, there was a 41.2 or 35% increase from last year. We exceeded the statewide growth goal. We unlocked an estimated $4 million and Pell Grants $800,000 from last year. And as I talked about those relationships, I didn't start at the top of the district, but because of those relationships with those boots on the ground folks, Elevate was recognized as the education partner of the year for the nonprofit space. So again, I just want to reiterate, as someone who is new to this work, didn't come in with a lot of understanding, it's about making those relationships, having clear intentional goals and strategies, and being able to have an infrastructure for your LCAN that you can then produce good results for your funders. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I will now turn it over to my colleague, Patrick. Sorry.
Hey, thank you very much. So we first begin to give you a bit of background. I lead a nonprofit team, all volunteers in Citrus County. We've been doing this since 2018. On the front plate of this PowerPoint, you see the introduction and our website. I want to point out to you that we really don't have time to review the resources we have on our website, but that link avails to many resources that would help any school district in Florida and in some part around our US. It was designed by a company out of Kodiak, Alaska, who we found not so long after our agreement, that the lead person is a student who graduated from the high school in Florida where I served as principal. So please feel free to access that. Again, our website is designed to help students pursue enrollment in public, private, in-state, out-of-state universities, colleges, technical schools, online schools, military schools, the military force, and directly into the workforce. Before we begin, I want to begin with that ending in mind. So today, if you ask me what was the most significant factor in influencing increase in not just FAFSA completion, but college enrollment in Citrus County, I would tell you it was our ability to find students who had such positive support and desire to assist classmates, and they are the ones that really made the difference. And I award and really honor them and the support and work that they've done to help their classmates. One of the things we noticed before I introduce those students, and we are going to begin with them first, we noticed that our students are very fluid and fluent in the use of technology, information, online resources, telephones to communicate, organize, and support their classmates. We notice that these students want to assist their classmates. They want to be helpful, and they end up being powerful influencers as a result of that. We notice that our students that assist us have a desire to make the world a better place. I can't help but think about, in the Gates Foundation, their core belief of every life has value. So when you take that and you bring it down to a local level, that everyone in our community has value, everyone in my senior class has value, that has been very visible to us. And finally, we notice in these students a tremendous capacity for leadership. So as we begin looking at Citrus County, and remember we're halfway between Gainesville and Tampa, we are about 1,000 graduates every year, 15,000 students in the public schools, 75% on free lunch. I want to now begin with one of our students who is attending the University of South Florida in the nursing program. I want you to know that USF most recently honored in its success as a recognized university in the United States. So here you will first hear from Eli Langston. Eli was our student coach in a grant that you'll hear about later. Eli also was our summer FAFSA coach, and Eli also helped us Fridays at the high school assisting classmates. I turn it over to Eli.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eli Langston. So I was a student coach at my high school. So we had four teacher coaches and four student coaches, and teacher and a coach or student were assigned to each other as a duo, as a team, just to get in contact with every senior at our high school. We had about 275 seniors, so we had a big challenge ahead of us. But I would say we worked together as a team. Us, me, and three other students were together as a team. We were a part of different clubs at the high school and different sports. So trying to get involved with contacting them about FAFSA and getting them to make a FAFSA account and fill out their FAFSA. Then on Fridays, I worked with the College of Coalition with Patrick and just getting people down to the media center on Fridays to help with any concerns, questions that they needed to help with scholarships, Common App applications, college applications, residential documents, Bright Futures. We were down there and helping my peers as well. So then on during the summer, I was asked to be a FAFSA coach. So, which entitles me to try to get into contact with every single senior. And for the first week, I was trying to email them. That really didn't work. So I went to cold calling, and I was cold calling their parents. I had about a 50% success rate in the return to call. So I was just telling them what FAFSA was, how it can be good for them to create an account and fill out their FAFSA. So I would then help them with any concerns with their transcripts, with anything, with their making an account, and just being a network for them. And I'll just hand it off to Zion.
Hello, my name is Zion Adams. My name is Zion Adams, and I go to UTC with Lakuchi Technical College. Um, I was also asked to be a um summer FAFSA coach for by Patrick Simon. I worked at two different schools, helping at students get signed up for FAFSA. The main one that I worked at was Citrus High School, not worked at, volunteered at, was Citrus High School, and I am a graduate from there, and I was asked to call all the rest of the graduates from the class of 2025. I mainly did cold calls, but I did also reach out into emails and um if there if the calls instantly disconnected and I couldn't find a email address, I sometimes resorted to texting, but that normally didn't yield to anything. Um, I spent a month and a half spending Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at Citrus High School calling the former graduates, and I did that again for a month and a half, and then by that time I finished calling all of the Citrus High School graduates, and I moved over to Withlacoochee Technical College, and I helped their financial aid team uh, call people, help people with their technical problems about signing up for FAFSA. I also did have some people contact me from Citrus while I was there that were a little bit late, and I was able to help. I think it was like one or two Citrus High School graduates while at WTC as well. Um, and now that summer is over, I'm still working as a student envoy with the WTC financial aid department. And anytime they're overwhelmed or they just need that extra hand signing people up for FAFSA, I I get out of my class, go down to the front office and help students sign up for FAFSA and fix any errors in their applications. That's all for me. I'm gonna pass it off to Patrick Simon.
So you can see clearly that these students have knowledge, experience, and a willingness to help others. And thank you both, Eli and Zion. The work you do really has made differences and opened doors for students that may not have had a door open without your intervention. I want to point out to you too that we provide funding for these students in the form of scholarships. So all of our coaches receive scholarships, In the summertime, not only do they get a scholarship, but based on the FAFSA submissions and completions, they receive a bonus scholarship award. And again, we value everything that they do. There are other actions that our coalition does throughout the year. In the beginning of the year, we start with a summer rise, actually in July, a 2-day event where students are invited. They spend 2 days with teachers who are presenting resources, information, support leading to enrollment into colleges, universities, technical schools. The activities include sessions such as resume writing, involving with college applications, FAFSA applications, FSA IDs. We meet also weekly with students, one-on-one. Normally we meet, and you'll see in a minute, about 30 to 35 students every week. We keep record of all that we do, and we have a chart that shows our goal of reaching all 1,000 high school seniors at each of the total of our 3 institutions. We provide continual support, particularly with the summertime. And finally, we initiated last year our coaching model. It's individualized coaching to support student enrollment into college. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Here you see our summer rise images. And again, this is a collaboration with our Education Foundation, our state college, the College of Central Florida, our Education Foundation, the YMCA, Publix. And at this event, as I mentioned earlier, students have opportunities to begin launching all the processes and steps that lead to enrollment into a post-secondary institution. We started with 18 students in 2018, and we now, this past year, had over 160 students participating. The highlight of this event, and I will say to you, if you ever plan an event, incorporating community members, people who live in towns, cities, areas. We had invited 100 volunteers to help students experience interviews, job interviews, mock interviews. What it did, and we hear from the students to say that's the best part of the 2-day event. We hear from those volunteers who were serving as job experience type interview situations that they are so impressed with the students and have such a different perspective of who and what students are in public education today. And I think that is a very positive outcome of showcasing what the capability of students are today in our public-private schools. We work hard to communicate through media. This is from a local newspaper, the activities that students do in the summer, with hopes that that encourages more students participating in the upcoming years. Our weekly high school meetings, as I mentioned, 30 to 40 students. We have volunteers who join us. Typically, we have our community volunteers, retired folks. We also have students who are there, our student envoys, our student coaches that are there helping. They include our efforts for FAFSA. I will say to you, we began in September with the beta. I believe we finished over 100 students. 100 students submitted their FAFSAs, and we have confirmation from about 50 students that those FAFSAs have been submitted to post-secondary institutions. We will look forward to October 1st when Bright Futures comes up, and we have a plan to approach that with our volunteers every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I will let you know also that we keep data and records in an Excel folder that is shared with the school administrative team so that they know exactly what is happening with students along the way. I wanted to point out our data results, and my thanks to Dane, to Kim for guidance on accessing resources that enable us to know what we've done. As of today, when we look at from the Federal Student Aid Data Center, that 551 students of our 1,050 completed submitted FAFSAs, totaling 52.4%. We provide charts that you see on this screen to each of the high school counselors, administrators, school staff to give them encouragement to know the outcomes of their schools and the progress that is being made so that they better understand how important it is to provide the support to those students, particularly when we pull them out of their class to meet 1 day a week. So this year, with the help of our Florida College Access Network, again, thanks to you, Dr. Krupa, we began with 2 high schools, 107 students, identifying those who have the greatest barriers that limit their opportunities for enrolling in college. These are oftentimes the most marginalized students. At each of these high schools, as you heard Eli say, we had 4 teachers and 4 student coaches with 10 to 15 students. Our hope was that their outcomes would increase somewhat their enrollment into college, their FAFSA completion. What happened stunned us. While we started with 107, by the end of the year, 2 of that group withdrew to other schools. These are the results. On the left, you see of the screen, FAFSA completion of these students, 72%. At the time we collected our data, the end of May, 72% had completed FAFSA applications. Of those 105 students, 84% of them were accepted, enrolled into post-secondary institutions. We know that 7% in the military, 8% said they had no plan, and 1% went into the workforce. We then delve into the college enrolled students to see where did they actually go. 62%, most of whom went to our local state college, some to state colleges in close proximity of Citrus County. 31% went to our technical school, and 7% to the university. So when you look at this, and I say to you all, as you think about our most at-risk students, when given the opportunity for support, for attention, for understanding, for caring, they rise to the occasion. When you receive this PowerPoint, you'll see a link in the lower left. That's a summary of this data, part of an abstract that we did with hopes that we have made some outcome in a positive way for these students. So I leave you with the 4 things that I think, and I'm going to add one more onto that, that we believe strongly would help increase our future, increase enrollment for students, increase FAFSA applications. One, again, students are powerful peer-to-peer influencers regarding what happens life after graduation. That teacher and student coaches working together throughout a year, weekly, with students to assist with enrollment and FAFSA completion for those at risk are amazingly powerful. That scholarships awarded to students to assist with FAFSA and enrollment will benefit those students, and in like benefit the leaders who we're asking to help those students. And finally, for the 26-27 FAFSA applications, that students who submit those applications, and we found that participating in beta was a springboard of interest and enthusiasm. And the last thing I want you to know is that we felt strongly this last year a missing piece was emphasizing civic duty to our students. So during the Summer Rise, we invited community leaders who spoke about civic duty and what they do to help others. Our student leaders demonstrated civic duty, and we feel with the volatility that's going on in the world today that civic leaders have an important role, that our students need to understand that in a clearer way. I leave questions till the end, and I wish now as I close out to our next presenter, we'll move forward with the information. There we go.
Let me make,
Thanks, Colleen.
no, thank you, Patrick. Let me press present. Present full screen. Can everyone see that?
We've got it.
All right, fantastic. So I'd also like to thank FCAN for their data support, their data visualization, their guidance on helping us do the work that we do. 100% agree with Shayla. Relationships matter in our space, you know, so in a number of different ways, but they're critical. And I agree also, you know, our focus is on high need schools, you know, students from low income, high minority neighborhoods. That's fundamental to our work. And Patrick, how amazing Eli and Zion are. That's such a compelling idea to have a student FAFSA coach. We hadn't thought about that. So I'm Colleen from Broward Bridge to Life. Broward is a big county. We have 260,000 students across K-12. Roughly 30,000 of those are seniors. And we all know, you know, NCAN says 92% of seniors who complete the FAFSA are likely to enroll in college by the following fall. So FAFSA is critical to our work. I want to acknowledge a few key people on the call here. Tron Lepet is the Beach Wells operational lead. Without his support and leadership, he's got deep, deep relationships within the schools, within the colleges. we could not do the work that we do. And of course, Daniel is our FAFSA presenter, and he is amazing. And I would argue that he's not just well known across the state. I think he's well known across the country for his work and expertise. I just want to point out at the bottom of this slide, it's key to have relationships with higher ed institutions. That's where we pull financial aid reps from to help us in our big in-person and big virtual events. They can provide the one-on-one guidance outside of what Daniel is talking about as the overall presenter. The plan here is to show you 2 sizzle reels. We were honored to be selected for FAFSA Beta last year and FAFSA Beta this year. And we all know 24-25 was problematic. 25-26 was a bit better. 26-27 this year, it's so much more streamlined. It's so much easier. We're really happy about how things have progressed. But I've got 2 sizzle reels that kind of, I think, express the most important points from both the event last October and our FAFSA event in August. And as Kimberly shared, our August event, a FAFSA Beta event where we served close to 1,000 families, completed the FAFSA. The Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, came down from DC with 10 folks from FSA kind of in the room. And we also had the Florida DOE Commissioner, Stasi Kamoutsas. So it was very special, that event. So, and then I'll end with kind of key takeaways. I think there's some 4 or 5 major takeaways for everybody on the call, regardless of our scale, whether we're rural or small or large or in between. I think the recipe, is pretty consistent. So with that, let me go to the next slide. So this is a sizzle reel from the October FAFSA Beta event. Let me know if you can hear the sound okay. Let me see if I can press play. Oh dear, here we go.
We've got the sound. Yep, we've got the sound. What's exciting about this evening is that this was the first opportunity nationwide for families to complete the 25-26 FAFSA. We're in beta testing in partnership with the federal government, and Broward was one of 6 communities in the country to be selected. We're the first ones tonight, and these families had a chance to do their FAFSA before anyone else in the country did.
It's been a pretty stressful process just trying to apply for college, but really being able to come here and have support and feel that support from adults, from those who actually know the part of the application process, really help us come together as a family and just get through this process as easy as we possibly can.
Why is FAFSA important? Completing the FAFSA is closely linked to post-secondary enrollment. 92% of seniors who submit a FAFSA enroll immediately following graduation, compared to just 51% who don't. In 2021, about 68% of all jobs required at least some post-secondary education.
We understand that the FAFSA application can be somewhat arduous of a task for people to complete. So that's why we lean on our community partners. We lean on folks like Daniel Barkowitz. We lean on our local institutions of higher ed and their financial aid offices to help people walk through that FAFSA application. And it starts with the FSA ID, but before that, it starts with awareness, knowing where to go and where to find the resources. We do our best to connect them to those resources, and today's a great example of connecting.
Tonight, as you heard, you have the opportunity to be among the first people in the country to do the FAFSA for 2025-26.
Like, it's one thing to roll out the information, it's one thing to present the information, but when you have individuals walking up and down the aisles, making sure that nobody's left behind, that is the important thing, because sometimes people become discouraged if they fall behind or they're not sure what's going on. So that way, I believe more people are reached when you have that type of support.
I think this event is so amazing. The fact that we are able to apply to the FAFSA months early is already just a blessing in itself.
Tonight's event is a really big look into how much people really need the help and how much an impact Bridge for Life can actually make. And because we are doing these things in our community now, I think later on we will be able to expand, make it bigger and better.
In communities that have minority groups like this, we don't really get the chance to have early access information like this. So it's really important to show people like, hey, we care about you and there are people looking out for you, and we want to make sure that you get the same amount of care and help and information that everyone else does.
We're your one-stop shop for all information and resources about college, especially in Florida, but we also promote national resources as well. So scholarships, college admissions, preparation, college readiness, job readiness, interview preparation. We do a lot of different things. So if you follow us at Bridge2, the number 2, Life SFL, you can see all of the opportunities and resources that we promote, and you can find us pretty much anywhere around Broward County at this point.
And I will just note that our logo changed from last year to this year. I'm well aware it's very different from last year. This is a sizzle reel from our August FAFSA beta event with the Secretary of Education.
So U.S. Department of Education has once again selected Bridge to Life to beta test the FAFSA, or one of a handful of agencies nationwide selected to do so, and the only one in Florida. And we're blessed to be joined tonight by the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, and the Florida Department of Education, Stasi Kamutsas, and our wonderful Superintendent, Dr. Howard Hepper.
What we believe in is providing those opportunities for our entire district. And this beta event itself is an exact testament to what it is that we're doing here in Broward County, where we're leading the way, not just a follower. And it's just like everything else that we do here in Broward County, we're leading the way.
Today's an exciting day to have both the U.S. DOE Secretary and the Florida Commissioner of Education here right at Broward College.
Broward is really a great place for pilot programs because we are innovative, and it is the best place for our students to be educated.
It's a great opportunity for our students and their families to fill out the FAFSA form so early to get ahead of the game and open up new opportunities for them.
There are kids who are making decisions whether or not to go to college based on that financial aid. And so to make that process as seamless and efficient as possible is a huge win for Florida students.
I thought it was super easy and it was very user-friendly, self-explanatory. It took 15 minutes when I thought it was going to take well over an hour.
I would say easy is like the word I would use to describe it. And painless as well.
This is the earliest beta testing and getting ready for the FAFSA form in the history of FAFSA. So we knew we had a lot of work to do. We've had some very bright people working on this for the past many months, and they put in a lot of long hours to get here. I'm really proud of that team that has worked so hard at the Department of Education, hoping really to get it just right.
So you can see that sizzle reel included the VIP reception we had ahead of time, which went over very well. So we're going to leave you with key takeaways. All right, so as Tron said in the original sizzle reel from last year, awareness is key. And we've got a big district, And we are blessed to have a really strong relationship with our comms department at the district. So when we want to notify 30,000 seniors and their parents about events, they do it for us: text, robocall, and email, and several pushes out. So I think one of the key reasons that we were selected for FAFSA this year was because of the large events that we hosted last year during beta. And that also prompted Secretary McMahon to consider visiting. So to the degree you can develop relationships with any kind of communication outlets to reach families, I mean, that's fundamental. Secondly, any event we host for FAFSA, and yes, absolutely one-on-one FAFSA advising is the very best option of all. But if you've got to reach a number of families, very large numbers, we bring 15 to 20 financial aid reps to every FAFSA event that we host, whether it's virtual or in person. They are key to provide on-hand, in-person, one-on-one guidance. So, relationships with higher ed institutions, also fundamental. So that's the next bullet, right? But I think to the degree you can build those or steward them further, it's great. If you haven't heard Daniel present on the FAFSA, there is no one better. But I think someone who understands the form can make it less intimidating, because after all, it's still a federal form. But find someone that is stellar to help present. He's our rock star, but you can borrow him. And then lastly, we have provided incentives for any in-person event, and for virtual and in-person, we offer e-gift cards. If families show proof of FAFSA completion, they get a $20 e-gift card. And I can't tell you how incredibly important these little e-gift cards are for families, but they will put in the proof. And then, we also feed families, so we have a fantastic local pizza place. We do pizza and salad and water, and that goes over very well. Daniel, did you want to add anything before we close?
I'll just say we certainly upgraded between year 1 and year 2, Colleen, in terms of the location. But really, the key messaging here is to talk to your families and to talk often. And the outreach that you're able to do in partnership with the school district is really, really critical. So if you're at the district, or if you're partnering with the district, having that key partnership, being able to get the message out and to be consistent about why it matters. And to your point, incentives really do help make this happen. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. No, it's been a great partnership.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Patrick.
So Colleen, I'm going to take us from here, I think. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about some of the changes that you can expect. So we've talked and shared a little bit about the beta for the last cycle, and you've seen some videos sort of explaining what happened. I'm going to take some time and walk us through a little bit of information about what's coming with the new FAFSA that, conveniently enough, actually launched yesterday. So I'll talk through what's going on and what happened this year and what the major changes are, so you have a good sense of what's coming. And then I think we will have time for Q&A at the end for all of us. So first, I just want to say it is so nice to be back with all of you. The FCAN family is really a family for me, and so I'm thrilled to be able to be the financial aid representative working in a financial aid office. I will say, to Colleen's point, financial aid offices around the state are here to help you. So the other really key relationship to form is with the financial aid office. The slides I'm going to share with you today come from my friends at Federal Student Aid, and I'm going to share with you some of their information. Please don't shoot the messenger. This is not, I didn't create these, and I do think there's really good news to be shared. So let me start with where we are for 25-26. So as you know, the 25-26 school year has begun. You might ask, Daniel, we don't care about 25-26. Why are we starting here? Well, I wanted to give you sort of the generalized news about where we ended up at the year. And we're not really done, because students, of course, can still apply for aid for the current academic year. But just to share with you, we're at 16.1 million FAFSAs submitted at this point, as of September 16th. That represents 2.5 million high school seniors. And I know we're all focused very much on the high school senior point of view, but there are 12.5 million returning students that are coming through as well. And that's an important number to keep in mind. The figures on the left are the most up to date. The ones in the center and the right are as of August 14th, but I thought this was important too. Now, we all know 24-25 was a really difficult year. The good news is FAFSA submissions at 25-26 levels as of August 14th were almost 10% higher than they were in 24-25. But saying that, that's like, comparing to something that's really not great. So if you go back even 2 years, though, FAFSA submissions are up 6% over where they were in 23-24. So yes, the 24-25 year was tough, but we've come a long way since then in terms of where we are today. And you can see satisfaction rates, and I'll give you some more data about this as we move on. Also, contact center. The other major problem the department had was staffing the 1-800-4 federal aid number. That number was really understaffed and having problems with answers. The answer rate is very high. The abandonment rate is very low. Volume is high. Their goal is to actually have an answer rate of less than a minute for calls. It was 2 minutes in the beginning of August because it was the beginning of August. So just an FYI that is why that number was where it is. But if you want more information, there's a link there so you can get that as well. And then here's where we are for 26-27. So keep in mind, 26-27 only began with beta on August 3rd, and I'll talk a little bit about the various beta cycles. So we're only a month and a half, if you will, a month, almost 2 months in to the beta cycle for 26-27 or the 26-27 cycle. And you can see already that 20,000 applications have been started, a number submitted, about 12,500, the number processed, and how many have been processed without rejection. You can also see how many states, how many ICERs. Now, you may not know the term ICER. ICER means Institutional Student Information Record. It's what we get at the college when a student submits a FAFSA. But there have been 38,000 ICERs produced for colleges. And overall, parents and students are very satisfied with the FAFSA experience in terms of time to completion and the form itself. So there are some major updates that I want to share with you today that I think are all really, really good news. And I'll share these with you as we go, because I think this will make the process much easier for families as we move forward. So number one, this was the current state when a parent had to be named by their student. The current state of the application required that the student list their parent's name, their parent's social security number, their parent's date of birth, all of that information. And it's one thing to list your parent's name. Most students hopefully know their parent's legal name, may. Many students might know their parent's date of birth, maybe, but how many students actually know their parent's social security number? I'm venturing to guess probably very few to none. So what you'll see is that was the old version of how the process worked. This is the new version. So basically, in the new application, no longer do you have to submit as a student all of that information. All you need to do is list your parent's email address. That is it. It does not even have to be an email address that matches their federal student aid ID, although that's helpful, but it's not required. So that email address that you enter, the parent will be sent a custom code and a custom invite link that they can then click on and access their section of the FAFSA. Now, really important, the student will also be told what that invite link is. So in this example, you see Alicia Tran is the contributor who's being invited. Here is the invite code, J7XT2Y4, and the invitation has been sent. If the student says, oh, I made a mistake, it's actually not my mom, it's my dad, they can click on Manage Invitations and simply replace the email address with a different email address, and that will be sent to the new person. In addition, if the parent loses the invite code, the student can always come back in and find the invite code in their FAFSA. Now, once the parent logs in to the FAFSA, they can either type, copy, and paste that invite code, or if they click on the link that will come in their actual email, they don't even have to do that. It will automatically populate the invite code for that parent. So we're hopeful this is a much, much simpler process for families. We know that in a lot of cases, the parent invitation was a really troubling part of the application process. A lot of students got stuck there. This was the single biggest problem families had in the application. There's an important note here on the top right that I just want to highlight. This new flow only applies if the student begins the form rather than the parent beginning the form. Really important. Federal government recommends, FSA recommends, I agree. You want to have the student as the first person to start the application, do their section, and invite their parent. It will make the whole process much more streamlined and easier as you go through. So that's one really good piece that I wanted to share. The other good news, and actually let me go back to this. This is, I think, the other exciting news, which is before you know that when you created an FSA ID, which, by the way, the language of FSA ID is changing. They're starting not to use that language anymore and moving instead to a studentaid.gov account, username and password. But as people start to build their username and password to the studentaid.gov website, you'll notice that now students and parents don't need to work on doing it 3 days in advance and waiting for the database matches to come through. This is immediate. So as soon as you do your FSA ID, create your FSA ID or your studentaid.gov username and account, it will immediately be validated with the Social Security Administration, with Department of Homeland Security, and you will be able to immediately move to the FAFSA. You won't have to wait for any delay. This is critical for those of you who do FAFSA events, because in the past, you used to have to say to parents or students, make sure to have your FSA ID completed before you come to our event. Now you don't have to anymore. It is all handled immediately at the time the parent or student is live doing this. You'll also get instant feedback. So if you type the wrong SSN, you'll immediately know that because you'll get an error message and be able to correct that error message. Or if your SSN doesn't match the name you typed in, you'll get that feedback immediately as well. So just some feedback from folks around the world who've responded to this. You can see some of the feedback being offered. This was on Aaron Lemon-Strauss's LinkedIn post announcing this update. You can see game changer, praise God. A win is a win. I don't ever think I've been happier to see a FAFSA update in my life. It really is a great improvement to the process. So let me talk a little bit about beta testing, what beta testing was, and where we are in the cycle. So why beta testing? And you've seen now beta testing for 2 years in the 25-26 cycle, which was last year's cycle, and now for the 26-27 FAFSA cycle. And by the way, beta testing is now going to be a permanent part of the FAFSA process. You should expect to see beta testing every year. Why? Well, first of all, it is a normal software process, right? When you debut a program that's going to be used by millions of people nationwide, whether that is a FAFSA or Gmail or a change to a banking website, you would typically have or run a beta to make sure that things work. The FAFSA has not had that beta, and that was one of the problems for 24-25, is that there were problems that were found, but it was almost too late because the application had already been delivered to everyone. And to fix it when millions of people are using it is a very different answer than fixing it when only thousands are using it. So the good news was that this beta is now baked in and built into the process. This year, on August 3rd, there was a very limited outreach to friends and family of the department who did a FAFSA initially. They had already done some significant testing, and then they began to deploy to a number of orgs around the country to hold events, virtual and in person. And during those events, they had a technical team who was ready to assist and were monitoring, sort of like the NCAA has its playback video section. They were monitoring live how submissions were coming in and being able to make changes. And as you heard Colleen say, they also flew staff in to the events to watch how families were interacting with the FAFSA and to learn from them what and where their struggles were. And you can see that even this new contributor invite process is due to in part the beta participants from last year. So important that folks who participate in the beta do a real FAFSA. There's no need to do a second FAFSA. It is live. They don't have an advantage or disadvantage compared to students who complete the FAFSA on day one. My selling point to students is it is as though you are completing the FAFSA on day one and you are first in line. But there's no additional advantage other than getting it done early and having it ready to go. So again, beta 1 opened on August 4th. By September 1, beta 2 opened, and I'll give you some updates to those dates as we go. And we'll talk about beta 2. Beta 2 was anyone in the country could ask to be part of the beta, and by October 1, general release. Well, here's actually what happened. So August 21st, beta testing opened to anyone online. On August 21st, anyone in the country could request to participate. You didn't have to partner with a particular institution or organization. Students were able to request through a brief form access through studentaid.gov, and that access was granted randomly to a group of students throughout the rest of the month. By September 15th, beta 2 opened for everyone nationwide. So no longer did you have to wait. You could just indicate you wanted to be part of the beta. And it's worked so well that actually, as of yesterday, September 24th, FAFSA is now live for 26-27 and open for all participants. So we are live and running. So with that, I will stop my share. And Kimberly, I think I'm turning this back over to you to see if there are any questions or comments that folks would like to make or anything that we can answer.
Yes, thank you so much, Daniel. And we did have a couple questions come in through the Q&A that look like they might be for you. And we also had some questions come in through registrations. As people submitted their information, they were also asking us questions. So we always love that. I'm not sure if you are able to answer anything about the new Pell and any workforce Pell insights you might have as students might be able to use their benefits for programs that weren't eligible with that 600-hour threshold. Sorry to throw you a hardball, but do you have any insights into that, or when we might be able to get more information?
So Workforce Pell is a major change, and just to remind you, and I think it's a great change. So short-term programs will be Pell eligible, especially clock hour programs that have been less than 600 hours. A reminder, they need to not be at the graduate level. They need to be at the undergraduate level. Those programs, there is a negotiated rulemaking committee which will begin to work on that. They're scheduled to meet in January and February. So I would not expect to hear anything sooner than February for next year. I would advise if students are looking at short-term Pell programs or short-term programs that they should go ahead and fill out the FAFSA and list the institution. There's no reason to wait to do that, but I would say we don't have any specificity about how the program is going to work. And this is a major change in the program that will require a number of regulatory updates as part of the regulatory framework. The department's committed to getting this done by July 1. This is one of two major committees that are being worked on through because of changes via OB3 or the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So stay tuned, and maybe FCAN can host something, as we know more coming through in the next couple of months. I also see a question. I'll jump ahead if you don't mind, Kimberly, about the contributors without SSNs. So just to be clear about that, I know this was a big issue last year. There was a blockage in place for parents, mixed status families, where the parent didn't have an SSN. And what do they do? Ultimately, the department sort of opened it up and said, if you don't have an SSN, just fill out your information. We'll let you do the FAFSA. That is still the case this year. So there's no difference. Those families will still be able to just indicate that they don't have an SSN. They'll put in their biographical information, and they'll be able to move straight into the FAFSA to do the completion of the FAFSA. So there's no change from what it was before.
And another special population in the chat, foster children or children aging out of the foster system.
So there's no change specific for foster kids. I would say, remember that if students were in foster care, They are considered independent if they were at any point after the age of 13 in foster care. So that is a question that occurs on the FAFSA. So there is no extra change due to that. And to answer the last question that was just typed in, yes, there is no extra wait time or verification with the FSA ID. It is instant verification.
Awesome. Another question that came in through the registration portal is any advice that our panelists would give to students who are hesitant? What words do you find resonate? What messages, especially to parents, was the question that came in. So anyone want to hop in on that? What works when speaking to hesitant students and their parents about why FAFSA matters? And it's not a 4-letter word.
No, it's a 5-letter word. I'll wait. I'll see if my colleagues want to jump in. But I would say one piece that's important is to differentiate between eligibility for aid and paying for college. So all the FAFSA does is determine eligibility for aid. When you fill out the FAFSA, you're not signing a promissory note. You're not obligating yourself to do anything other than determine whether you're eligible for aid or not. So often I find parents confuse filling out the FAFSA with an obligation to pay for college. They are separate and distinct. You can fill out the FAFSA, find out that you're getting no aid, and then say, I'm not going to pay. Or you could find that you're getting lots of aid and don't need to contribute anything. Again, that often for not mixed status families, I know mixed status families is a different story, and there's some concerns around information sharing. But for parents, that often can make the difference. Patrick, I see you came on.
Yes, that's okay. So a couple things we do. First of all, when we have the hesitant student, we match them up with a student, and they are they're far less hesitant when they're with an age-like peer than they are with us or someone they don't know. Secondly, we make sure students know that that the FAFSA, while it's based on family size income and it's an eligibility, as Daniel said, we also say that in many cases, the university's foundation funds and state college can only be awarded if the student has a FAFSA in place at that institution. So that part some students don't know, and it encourages them to have that in place. And also their life changes, so they may be life and family situations, fortunately, unfortunately, change. So you may not qualify this year, that in the future you may. So it's important to have that established understanding of the process. So while you have someone to help you, that seems to be convincing. And Daniel, I'll defer back to you to say from your experience at that university level.
Yeah, I think that's right. Again, it's almost like protection, right? Having the information in protects you in case there are major changes that occur to the family.
And I'll just add, I mean, one of the key things about awareness, because the college going soup is very complicated these days, right? Is to make sure that students and their parents / guardians know the value of higher ed, right? That, what percentage of jobs require credential of some kind. We're looking at upwards of 70% now. So that's key. And then what you can earn with any higher ed credential in terms of lifetime earnings is hugely more than just with a high school diploma.
I wanted to add one more thing, Kim. I want to quote the student yesterday we worked with, and with honor, I say these phrases. His response was, "Oh my God, this is so easy." And again, that was after about a 5-minute completion of the FAFSA. So I think when you hear that and what you've heard today from all the presenters, I think that this is a whole different world of opportunity for students. And once they get in, and parents, and when they get in there, I think it's going to have a different response.
Beautiful. We do have a couple more weedy questions in the Q&A. Not saying that they're bad questions, they're wonderful. If anyone's able to answer those, if we don't get to answers live, we'll be sure to follow up in the post-meeting production notes. But I wanted to thank all of our incredible speakers. Let's see if I can remember from the top. We had Dane, We had Keena, we had Shayla, we had Patrick, we had Eli and Zion, they're your two amazing students. We had Colleen and Daniel. Thank you all for sharing your expertise, your data, and thank you to Eli and Zion for sharing your powerful outreach methods with us. It's amazing to see students who know how to use a phone these days. I hope that you all took something meaningful away from this incredibly rich conversation. We usually don't go for 90 minutes. Hopefully you found it worth your time. We really wanted to kickstart this year's FAFSA challenge with the latest and greatest from the best and brightest. So next steps, we're going to connect you all with today's presenters and the follow-up show notes. Their contact information will be in all those materials. We're going to keep you abreast of the recording, and we're going to do a blog post with some key takeaways. So that will be in your inbox within a week. Thank you for investing your precious time in Florida's students. And I guess I will just close by saying, let's go make it count. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. Bye-bye.
Thank you.